What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day, as we have big data coming out for the economy, not to mention the unemployment rate, and also more and more data coming out that's going to affect us. So let me just mention that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. Soft runs very soon, just a couple of weeks, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. Looking at SPY, we saw a very, very crazy day. It was very volatile. We started off with a little bit, a nice little pump that came after we got our services data from the ISM report, and everything was quite decent. So the data came out today. It was pretty good when it comes to services. The services PMI was decent. Our business activity was decent. Employment was a little bit weak. New orders were decent, and then prices went up a little bit. Besides that, it was more good than bad. So the market got a little bit of a pop. That's why we saw SPY push up to about 553, a little bit under 554. And then we got this big rug pull all the way down to about 547, testing our 200 EMA. Buyers defended us once again, pushing us back up to 551. Then we closed with a little bit of a dip back down to 549. So it was going up and down, back and forth pretty much all day. And the question is, what's going to happen from this point on? And the answer is this depends a lot on very important data that's coming out. So I just want to prioritize talking about that first before I break down the charts for Tesla and the others. So for tomorrow, it's going to be Friday, September 6th, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the unemployment rate coming out, not to mention non-farm, governmental, and manufacturing payrolls data. All that data is going to be very important. The most important metric is going to be the unemployment rate. Whatever this gives us is going to it's going to cause a lot of volatility. We're expecting it to be between 4.2 and 4.3%. Now, the last time this came out, okay, we saw a big spike in unemployment. That led to a big sell-off in the markets because it was well above expectations. So if we get this well above expectations at 4.5, 4.6%, the market's going to see a rug pull most likely. There's going to be a lot of fear about a recession, a lot of pain coming, and the market may get a negative reaction. So please be prepared for that just to be safe. If the data is decent, if everything's aligned with expectations, there's a possibility the market may shuffle a bit, then starts to maybe push a little bit closer to max pain, and that could cause the market to try to push higher. So whether or not we get a pump or dump depends on the data and also what the market makers try to use it as an excuse for. As I said yesterday in my video, all this data is just noise. You have to remember that there's different interpretations of the data. Excuse me, and these market makers and institutions use this data as an excuse to pump things or dump things. They'll do whatever they deem best for their own benefit. So we have to be very careful with this data. Sometimes the market's very tricky. So we'll see what the reaction is. That's going to be very important. I don't know what it's going to be because it depends on this data, but I will talk about the very, very strong possibilities and what many charts suggest. Besides that, we're less than 2 weeks away from FOMC. We have another CPI report coming out for next week, and then we have FOMC the week after. So a lot of big data is coming out, and the market's going to be looking for some interesting volatility. For earnings, we had NEO announce their earnings. They absolutely crushed it, beating on EPS, getting revenue as expected, and their guidance was very, very strong with strong deliveries. That's the reason why the share price was up like 14%. For tomorrow, we have Big Lots announcing their earnings. Big Lots is going to be a very important one, at least for retail out there. I can't wait to see what this ends up leading to. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for earnings. There's nothing too crazy for the entire week, but Big Lots is the most important one for the day on Friday, in my opinion. So we'll see how it goes. With that being said, for others out there, just know that right now there's a 57% chance we get a 25 basis point cut from the Fed and a 43% chance we get a 50 basis point cut as well. We're almost 50-50 right now. We'll see if this shifts depending on the unemployment numbers, and we'll see how the market kind of interprets everything. That's going to be very important for us. Right now, the market is neutral. We saw some pumps, then we saw some dumps. We're kind of stuck in our range. So we'll see which way we end up going. I just want to note to everyone that momentum is currently at fear because we're starting to dip a little bit on the S&P 500, getting closer to the 125 daily moving average. So we'll see how things go with that. But so far, we're holding up decently. The put and call option ratio is also trying to trend upwards. We're approaching the 0.8 area. Fear is making up the majority of our sentiments, but we'll have to see how this ends up going. There's a lot of shorts still piling in. If the market gets a rug pull tomorrow, this might continue to spike, and that could once again lead to more fear. So watch and see how this is going. But right now, the market has a lot of fear. Volatility right now is neutral. The VIX did come down just a little bit, but still holding up. And we'll see if the VIX gets another spike tomorrow or if it gets a dump, depending on the reaction we get from the S&P 500 and the broader markets. So with that being said, the market's at a very, very critical place right now. We're at some key support, so we'll see if we get a rejection or not. We'll see depending on how things end up going. One last thing I want to talk about is going to be the option chain summary. We have over 280,000 of these calls expiring, and we have over 650,000 puts expiring. We have a 2.29 puts to call ratio with basically max pain being at 552. So we'll see how things end up going. I'm going to be very careful with this. The market makers would benefit a little bit more if they close this closer to max pain. So it's possible we get a green day for Friday, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, for SPY, what do I see for the chart? So as you guys can see, we have a possible falling wedge that's forming, but I wouldn't solely trade based off these. There's no guarantee it's going to pan out because it depends more on the data. That's why you have to be prepared for anything. So what happened was our daily moving average, the EMA, the 200 EMA was basically trending upwards. And now our main support's at 547. It moved a little bit upwards from 546. So now we're at 547. If we lose this tomorrow, if we get a big rug pull and the data is not good, the market doesn't like it, I think we lose this and we dip all the way down to 543 or even below that into like the 540 area. If we end up getting that rug pull, that's 9 points below where we currently are. So that's pretty crazy if we do end up getting bad data tomorrow. If the market likes the data and we get a bounce, we should try to hold 547 and try to rebound, and there could be an attempt to get back up to 555 or higher. Now, with the falling wedge that's kind of developing right here and the fact that max pain's at 552, I would think that I lean a little bit more bullish, thinking that there might be a bounce coming. But honestly, guys, I'm going to be real with you. The market could be very, very tricky. It's not that easy all the time. You can't solely just depend on these patterns. So I would say the best thing to do is just be prepared for anything, especially when this data comes out. You never know what it's going to cause. I am personally leaning a little bit more in favor of bulls looking at the setup, but I can't make any promises until we see the data. So we just have to wait and see. So if SPY holds above 550, look for 553. If we get back above that, we're looking for 555. And if we end up losing 547, we turn bearish. There could be a bigger dump coming if we hold below that, especially for over 4 hours. So we'll wait and see how it goes. But so far, the setup does favor upside just a little bit more. For ES, we have something very similar developing. ES has been dumping. It's looking a little bit weaker than SPY. We're at 55.10, barely holding support. If ES loses 55.10, I think that we're going to be dipping all the way down towards the 54.80 area. I think my line just got deleted right over here. Let me just redraw that. So 55.10 is going to be our support. If we lose this, if we don't hold above this tomorrow, we're going to be going all the way down to 54.80, if not lower. There's going to be a bigger dump coming, unfortunately. So please keep that in the back of your guys' minds. If we're bullish, you want to see us basically try to break past 55.50. That's going to cause us to try to rebound. So we'll see which way we go. Do we get a little rebound or do we continue to dip? We'll just have to wait and see. But honestly, guys, from a technical standpoint, I do want to say that ES is looking kind of weak right now. It looks a little bit weak. So we'll see. It looks a little bit weaker than SPY. So just be very, very patient and see what the move ends up looking like. So with that being said, we will see how things end up going from here, but just know that there is a little bit of weakness on ES compared to SPY. For Nvidia is just consolidating in a range right now. So it's very simple. We have this 104 area, which is where Nvidia keeps getting bought back up from. So it hit 104 1 2 3 times, got bought back up, and we hit 110 1 almost 2, maybe like 3 times, and we got rejected. So we're just range bound between 104 and 110. If we're bullish tomorrow, if we get good data and a nice bounce, Nvidia is going to be pushing for above 110, which would take us up towards 112. And if that breaks, we're looking for basically closer to 116. If we're bearish, if we get a rug pull, you're going to be looking at 104. If we lose that, we're going all the way down to the 99 area or below that. So it all depends on the data for tomorrow. We're just completely range bound. I wish this had a clear direction, but we're completely stuck right now. I do want to call out that we're nearing a bullish cross in the PPO right here. So this could technically favor upside a little bit more, but it's not a guarantee until we see the data. So keep that in the back of your guys' minds. We're waiting on the data. For Bitcoin, we are looking bearish. We're making lower highs right now, continuing to downtrend, and we're barely at support now. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I think this line doesn't need to be this bold. Let me just fix this up for 1 second. So what I'm looking at is this level right over here, the low that we're looking at, the 55,600 area. If we lose that on Bitcoin, we're going to be dipping all the way down here towards 54,680. If we End up bouncing off that. We're looking for the 57,000 area to be retested. We're barely at support, just kind of consolidating. So give this some time. But I do want to call out that the trend on Bitcoin is more bearish so far. We're making lower highs and we're consistently doing that. So it still looks bearish. We'll have to see if this shifts or not. For other factors out there, I just want to call out Tesla. Tesla looks really nice right now, in my opinion, at least from a technical standpoint. Because when you really zoom out, you guys can see we have this nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. The 4 hours looking more bullish. We got a nice close because Tesla made a big announcement. They announced that in Q1 of 2025, they're planning on launching their FSD in Europe and China. And they had a new product roadmap for AI, which is very, very bullish. That's why we saw the share price explode. So, in my opinion, I think that Tesla has more potential if we break past 235 tomorrow. And the daily chart looks really, really nice. Let me just double check this because we have that gap to fill around that 245 area. So we look bullish. If we break 235, we're looking for 245 for that gap fill. If we end up rejecting, we lose 225. Make sure you watch that gap down below around that 219 area. So if we lose 225 tomorrow off bad data, we could turn it a little bit lower for that 220 target. If we break 235 tomorrow or next week, we're looking for basically that gap fill towards the 245 area. So we'll wait and see which way we end up going. But so far, the chart is favoring the upside direction, at least from a technical standpoint. All right. So once again, we're favoring upside on Tesla. We look really nice. However, I'm not overly bullish until we see this data. So be prepared for the data just to be safe. But the chart does favor upside from a technical standpoint. For NQ, we're range bound as well. We had a so close. We're kind of stuck in this range again. We've been stuck in this range for like 3 days. So basically, if we lose 18,800, we could be dipping all the way down to 18,500. If we break past 19,100, we could be looking for a nice bounce back up towards 19,300. So we'll have to see how things end up going. That's going to be very important for us moving forward, and we'll have to be very, very patient with this nonetheless. But I just want to say we're completely range bound on NQ, so give it some time. We'll see which way we break. On the other hand, the QQQ is looking a little bit more bullish. We look a little bit more bullish because of our PPO. I'm not going to guarantee a direction though, even though we are showing some signs that we want to rebound. I'm not going to promise it until we see our data. If we lose 458, we could be looking for a dip all the way down to 455, then 453. And if we get a rebound, we're looking for basically 462 as resistance. If we hold above 460 and push up to 462, we could be looking for 465 as our next potential target. So we're range bound right now, but there is some upside potential with the 4-hour PPO crossover coming. So I think the QQQ has potential, but there's no guarantee yet until we see which way we break. So in my opinion, we're range bound on the QQQ. I am seeing some developments that suggest upside is a possibility, but not a guarantee until we see the data. So we just have to wait and see. Aapl is looking a little bit more bullish to me because we're doing a good job at breaking out. We actually held this 200 EMA very, very nicely, and that does tend to suggest that upside is a stronger possibility. So if we dip and we hypothetically lose 218, the 200 EMA down here, Aapl is going to be dipping all the way down to about 216 all over again. If we manage to hold up, we're looking at 223.8 as resistance. If we break this and hold above this, I think 226 is coming next. That's also where previous support becoming resistance happens to be. So technically speaking, we look a little bit more bullish on Aapl. We're favoring getting to the mid 220s, but there's a big but. It's not a guarantee until we see what happens with the unemployment data. So I want to be very blunt about that, very, very straightforward. The unemployment data is going to be massive. Neo stock is looking really nice right now. We'll see if it dips a little bit before it continues higher. It has a gap to fill at 5.25 and it's already up like 14%. So it looks more bullish to me. Might be looking for a rally in Neo. For Palantir, let me just call this out. We're completely indecisive as well. If we lose 29.5, we're looking for a dump for the 28. If we break past 30.72, we're looking for 31.8. We're kind of stuck in this range between 29.5 and 31.4, like around that area. We're stuck right now. So we have to give Palantir some time. Whichever way we break after the data comes out will determine the bigger move. Lose the 29s, we turn bearish. Break the 31.8 area, we're more bullish. Otherwise, we're just range bound. Unfortunately, Supermicro is still looking kind of weak. I was talking about this yesterday, how I saw weakness on the charts. We're going to be looking for this 400 target, might be dipping towards 400, if not a little bit lower. If 400 fails us, we could get closer to 380, but I do expect it to dip a little bit more. And we'll see if we get a bounce or not, depending on the data for tomorrow. Watch 430 as resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 442. If we lose 400, we're looking for a 380. We're dipping a little bit. This might dip a little bit more, and we'll see if we bounce off 400 or not. So give it the time it needs. It might dip more, but then we'll see what the move happens to be. For Rivian has resistance around 13.75. If we break this, we're looking for 14. If we reject it, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 13.25 as well. Now, the 4 hour is looking like it wants to turn, especially thanks to Tesla. So I think that there's potential for us to try to fill this imbalance and push up for 14. However, technicals are not everything. We'll see what happens with the data. If we get a bad unemployment, we're looking for 13.25. If we get a good one, and the market responds more positively, we're looking for the 14s. It all depends on the data. We do have potential to push, so we'll just have to wait and see. SoFi looks a little bit more bearish. We could be looking for 7.18 to be tested. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. We look like we might dip a little bit more. Then we'll see what the move happens to be after that. It depends on the data, of course. Of course, unemployment is going to affect interest rates, which affects a lot of bank stocks like SoFi. So I think there's a good chance this may dip a little bit lower towards that very important sector over here, all the way down to that 7.18 area. In the finance sector, we may see a very similar move. So we'll see how things go. We might dip a little bit more, then we'll see if we bounce or not. But it all depends on the data. The IWM Russell 2000s barely at 212. We're showing a little bit of weakness by being below 212. We got to reclaim that tomorrow. If we don't reclaim this and we get a bad reaction tomorrow, we're looking for 208 for that gap fill. If we bounce and we end up holding above 212, we could be looking for a push for 214, then 216. Otherwise, it all depends on what kind of reaction we get. So we're still stuck within this range. We'll just have to give this a little bit more time. For a few more out there, we also have AMD. AMD's on a bit of a downtrend right here, making lower highs. It's still looking more bearish, but watch this support at 136. It looks like it might test 136 tomorrow. We'll see if we bounce or not off of that. So far, the trend is more bearish, so it is still favoring the downside, but we'll see what happens when we hit 136 again. I think that it depends on the data. If we get a big bounce, we're looking for a retest of 142. If 136 fails us, we're looking for a bigger rug pull. So we'll just have to give this the time it needs. For ARM, we're on a bit of a downtrend as well. We have resistance around this 125 area and support at 120. If we lose 120, we're looking for a big dump all the way down to 116. If we break past 125, we're looking for basically 130. Now we have a double top leg structure looking a little bit weaker, but I think that with the bullish PPO crossover, it is possible we establish a lower high before we continue lower. So it might try to rebound tomorrow if we could get back above 125.5. We might even test that tomorrow, so we'll see. That's what technicals favor, but it depends on the data, of course. Coinbase is on a bit of a downtrend right now. I was talking about how this is going to drop to the low 160s, and we were correct about that. We haven't held 160, so we could get closer to 155, but there should be a rebound coming out from one of those levels. Now, in my opinion, that's just based off technicals. It could always go lower depending on what we see tomorrow. Unemployment will affect this, so we'll see if we bounce off 155 or not, or if we could reclaim like 160. For Amazon, we're just range bound. We're looking at 178 as resistance and the 175 as support. We're just stuck in the middle. If we break 178, we're looking for the 180 area for a cup and handle like structure. If we lose 175, we're going to turn bearish. This does have a cup and handle, so it does technically favor upside for 180. So we'll see if we get a bounce tomorrow with unemployment. So we'll just have to wait and see. For Meta, we're looking at 518 as resistance. If we break this, we're looking for 524 all over again. If we reject off 518, we're looking for a retest of about 512. We're making higher lows, so this does technically favor the 520s. So it looks a little bit more bullish to me, but we'll have to wait and see if we get that break or not. So give this the time it needs and be very, very patient nonetheless. For a few more, we also have Microsoft. It's just completely range bound, not really doing much. If we end up losing support around this 405 area, we're looking for the 400s. If we end up bouncing off this, we're looking for 410 as resistance. We're just range bound, so we'll see if we break 410 to turn bullish for 413, or if we lose support at 405 to drop to 400. For Google, if we're bullish, we want to see it reclaim 160.5. If that breaks, we're looking for a big push. If you reject and we end up losing 156, we could be dipping. So we'll just have to see how things go. For a few more out there, we also have DJT. DJT is completely range bound right now. If we manage to break the 17.6 area, we're looking for a big push. If we lose support, we're going to be dumping. I think that we could dip a little bit towards the 17 flat area. It's trying to base here, so it might consolidate. So look for a little bit of a dip and some consolidation. The VIX is dipping for now, but we'll see if the VIX gets a big bounce or not tomorrow. It all depends on the data, of course, so we'll just have to wait and see. Nothing could be said or promised, and we could be forming a flag, so I can't promise anything about the VIX quite yet. We just have to wait and see what this ends up doing. The 10-year is going to make a big move depending on the data for tomorrow as well, and the dollar is barely at support around this 101 area, so we will see if the dollar bounces. It has a possible inverse head and shoulders forming. It is starting to dip a little bit. Maybe the market pushes a little bit higher before this tries to rebound. We'll see. We're at support right now on the dollar. So I'm going to be watching support around 101. We'll see if we bounce off this area or not. If it does get a bounce, that could be bearish for the market. So we'll just have to wait and see. With that being said, guys, tomorrow's going to be a big day. We have huge data coming out in the morning. We will see if some of these bullish setups play out for like Tesla and SPY, or if we get a big rug pull. It all depends, guys. I can't make any promises. I am seeing some promising looking technicals for SPY and Tesla and a few others, but like I said before, it depends on the data. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what the data is going to look like. So we just have to be very reactive and very patient until tomorrow. With that being said, have a great day, night, or evening wherever you guys are around the world. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow to talk about the unemployment data. Until then, take care and peace out.